Welcome back to GBGuns Armory, where we're talking about stuff that's been out for a while. I'm giving you a little more thoughts, feels, and reflections. You guys are sharing your experiences and thoughts, since this is stuff that's been out for a while. In today's video, we're talking about the Taurus G3 XL. Quite frankly, a gun that I forgot I had until I went looking at the wall. A pretty nice Taurus. This one has a different quality of build to it than what I typically see in Taurus. Beyond that, what I liked about it is you have that subcompact grip that's just big enough with the little finger rest extension on the magazine, 12 rounds, and a slightly longer barrel than could be. It's still short, it's still under 4 inches. I don't remember the exact specs. It looks like it's probably a 3.5 to 3.7, sort of a SIG 365 XL type setup, except I can get my whole hand on the 12 round mag. What this creates is something that is compact and easy enough to conceal, still has somewhat of a decent sight radius, and still has some barrel. Recently on the main channel and over on GBGunsDepot.com, I did a quick study showing barrel length and energy loss, and reminding everyone that most ammo is made for a 4-inch barrel, so when you go below that, your defensive rounds may not perform as intended, because you're losing, it looks like, about 10% muzzle energy when you go down to a 3-inch barrel. 10%, is that significant or not? That depends on the ammo and the distance you're shooting. But anyways, back to the G3 XL. Very ergonomic, excellent texture on the stock. We have these memory points and nice divots to help the hand fit on there. And the trigger on it is not that bad. Light take up to a wall, crisp break. Reset fairly short for another crisp break. It's a decent trigger, and it's got that second strike capability. Now, second strike capability used to be something that I was really after. I don't know if ammunition quality, primer quality has changed, or I'm just taking better care of my ammo, but I haven't encountered as many duds in recent years as I used to. But it used to be that every once in a while you get a round that didn't go off, and being able to pull the trigger again, trying to set that off, oftentimes would set it off on the second strike. Tacticians will argue back and forth. You don't want to get stuck just pulling, why isn't it firing? You want to tap, rack, flip, and get that next round in there. Very true. When you only have 12 rounds and you're facing more than one attacker, every round needs to count. So, if you can train yourself to remember to didn't fire, pull again, then tap, rack, flip, give it that second chance, that could save you a round, and that round could theoretically make the difference in how your day ends. Something to be aware of, it requires some cognizance and a lot of training, and I say a lot of training because, as someone who's been in firefights, granted they were military, but I've been in firefights, I have seen how during stress, in a life or death situation, people revert down to their lowest level of training, and I have seen people repeat things that they're trained to do, for better and for worse. This is where getting into habits, things like, the one that always drives me nuts is competition shooters. At the end of a stage, it says show clear, and they just 3 times rack the gun real fast. Don't even look at the chamber. And they're training that into themselves, that my extractor must have worked. There's no chance it slipped, especially when I ripped on that slide. So obviously there's no round in there, and then they pull the trigger. Obviously it's not a huge issue, otherwise we'd hear more about it, but I prefer looking. Show clear should be take a look, and then have your range safety take a look to confirm that the firearm is empty, not just ripping on it. And you see the same thing with AR guys, that it's almost like it's a cool thing somehow to make as much noise and rack that action as hard as you freaking can a whole bunch of times without even looking to see if the bolt closed all the way. Especially on an AR, you can rack it and run the charging handle home and your bolt could still be back because you've got a double feed jammed in there. And if you're not looking and you're just racking real fast, you're just jamming that even harder, because if the extractor is not on the case, it's not on the case. Anyways, a bit of a digression, but that's what these videos are for, is to be able to talk about lessons and things like that. Second strike capability, I think, is an advantage. I think it's something nice to have, especially when you've got smaller magazines and lower round count. You want to make sure you have the best chance of making every one of those rounds work. You just don't want to get trained into blindly pulling and being like one of those silly scenes in a movie where the person's just going click, 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 click on an empty gun, because they're locked into, I need to pull the trigger, and not into figuring out what's going on with the gun. Still a good feature to have. Still a nice pistol. This one was not optics ready. I do believe they released a Toro version later on that was optics ready, but it's a decent gun at a good size and capacity. I don't recall having any issues with it in the review. I'll link to that, as I always do, just in case. But not a bad option at all, and of course the Taurus price tag makes them very affordable. It's kind of something that I think is odd that we don't see more about. As I recall, it's a pretty good gun at a good price. Is it a true micro compact? No, maybe not. Does that really matter? No. It's what's comfortable to carry, what are you proficient with, what gun are you comfortable with, not do you have the latest cool trend. Of course, micro compacts have already moved out in the mainstream, and now we're on to double stack 1911s, because since people had trouble running their micro compacts, let's give them a shorter, lighter trigger and make that the new trend. It's silly. You can buy performance potential, but the only performance you can buy comes from training and ammo. This is my opinion. That's GBGuns Armory. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.